ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my first tutorial video on how to create your own custom models of mobs and items for Java Edition. I am Sefraneth. I am a professional modeler for EliteCreatures as well as Project Archeon. Now, before we start creating our first model, we need 3 programs to work with. The first is 3D model creator. Practically you can use 2. You can use either Cubic Studio, which is paid, or Blockbench, which is free. Each of them have something special. Most people work with Blockbench, I understand why, but we work with Cubic Studio instead. The other thing that we need is Notepad++. That will help us with binding our models and actually making them work with meeting mobs later on. And the third thing we need is GIMP, which is an illustrator or editor in other words. So we will need this one to help with our textures and little things here and there. So these are the three things that we need before we start. Now let's have a look into the Cubic Studio. So what do we have here? We have our canvas over here. Then we have our Ghost Voxel over here, which is a place where you will start creating your model. This arrow symbolizes the way that the model faces. Now you move around, you rotate around the canvas with Control and middle mouse button, like this. Then you move around in general with just middle mouse button. And you can always concentrate just on one canvas with clicking this button, the main. So we see this is just the main one. Then you can click back and you are back again. So now we want to start creating our first model. So we have this little ghost voxel over here. This will not affect how your model looks in game, so don't worry about it being here. It's just to help you to get started. So now we have a few buttons here. We have add cube. This will obviously add a cube of your first element. Now you want to start with elements for sure rather than voxels, because it's hard to come back from one to another, and elements are in general much more optimized. Let me show you the difference between voxel model and the element model. So this is voxel model. You see, voxel is practically a 3D pixel right over here. So this is just one of them, and it's very nice detail. It's got a lot of details, but the problem is it's gonna drop your FPS very fast. I mean, if you have more than one of these items in game, it will drop your FPS like crazy, and the players will complain, trust me. So let's have a look into how it looks within the elements. So it will create much more elements than necessary. You see, this particular item has got an insane amount of 6,127 elements in total. This is you can't use this in game. It's impossible to keep your FPS up. So I don't suggest starting with this. It's nice for art, but not to use in game. So let's have a look at how the element looks like. So this is a legendary dwarf axe, and it's purely made just from elements, as I showed you at the beginning, just by stretching and adding more of them. So you see, it's got plenty of details as well, but more in the texture rather than in the wall model itself. And it's got pretty much just 27 elements. That's very nice amount. In general, you want to keep under 100 elements, because that's when it starts dropping FPS for weaker PCs. So this is just from elements, and you see it's not uglier, it's not worse than the voxel one. So please start with the elements. It's much easier and it's much better. So let's go back. Here we go. Here is our first element. You stretch it with holding right mouse button and going after the axis, So you see here and there. Now we want to, if we want to rotate it, you hold number 1 and rotate it with holding this circle in different axes. So unfortunately, the limitation of Minecraft is that you can rotate only on one axis at once. So that means if I rotate it like this and want to rotate it on the other one, it's impossible. You can't do it. That's the limitation of Minecraft. But it can be worked around very easily. So just keep it in mind when you are creating your model. Now we have our first element. Then another button here is a plane. So let's go ahead and add a plane. Now if we move it around, you see it's just practically a flat element. It's got only 2 faces, 2 surfaces on each side, so this will help us with creating round textures or round looking features on our models, because you see the cube is not very, it's hard to create round items with cubes. So this will help us a lot. I will show you later on. Now we can get rid of this, and practically how you create a model is you just literally keep either adding your elements, or there is another way of how to prevent stretching it a lot, is just to go to element, go clone, and now we have a clone of our first element. So you can make it smaller again, you can rotate it around. So see, it's very simple. There's nothing hard about it. Now I'm a few steps ahead of you, and I created my first model for this video, and that would be a hyena. So let's go ahead and have a look. So what did I do here? I suggest looking at some kind of reference before you start modeling. So in this case, our hyena has, you see how the back is shaped downwards? That's how the hyena body normally looks like. So here we have, as another canine, you know, curved legs, some claws, tail, ears, the basics. Now you see here for the ears I used the planes, so they are flat, and you will use them to shape the ears so they are round, they are not square. It's very useful for teeth as well, as you see here. So I have 3 planes for each jaw, for upper and lower jaw, for the teeth. I will show you in the painting how to make it look properly. So now we have our basic model, and we want to put the texture on it. So what we do is we mark all of this by Ctrl A. Also, before we do the texture, I would like to say that it's better to make your model as small as possible, and you will check the size by looking here into the preview. So we will use the head setting mainly, and this is where you will see the actual size of the model. Now you can scale it in different ways. The scale maximum of the scale is 4 times, so 4 times the size of the canvas model. And I would suggest making your model scale 4, and then looking on the size and scaling it on the canvas. So you want to mark all of it by Ctrl A, going right mouse button, going transform and scale. So this way you can actually scale all your model on the size that you want. So for example, like this. So this is half the size of the previous one, but this is too small. So we want it to be this size. So this is how you keep your texture resolution to minimum, because the bigger the texture resolution, the bigger the size of the texture is, and you don't want your resource pack to be completely stuck with huge amount of big textures. So now we generate our first texture. Let's go ahead and create Atlas blank textures. That's gonna create a completely new texture file. Now you see the size is 32 to 32 at the basics. So if we have a look how big it actually is on the model, let's try and paint it, right? So let's go ahead and pick some color, try and paint it, and you see that this pixel is too big. It's just too big. So that means the texture is too small. The resolution is small. So what we do is we rename the texture. So for us it's gonna be hyena 1, for example. Now we want to save it. Always keep saving your textures and your model in between, because there is no autosave and you need to do it in Blockbench as well as Cubic Studio. So let's go ahead and save this. Now we are gonna use GIMP. So you want to open your texture right over here, and what we will do is we will be scaling this texture to the size that we want to work with. So most people prefer to work with small textures. I prefer working with bigger ones, but it's a matter of preference. So for me, for example, I like to work with triple the size of the basic amount of pixels that's here. So let's go ahead and do 128. So now we have it scaled. Now we need to override. Now let's go ahead and load our texture that is already scaled. Here we go. Now you see that the amount of pixels on the actual model is much better than it was before. So you can go smaller or bigger, it depends on you, but for me this is ideal. Now sometimes what happens when you shape the model is a glitch like this. So you see that the pixel is stretched. You don't really want that on your model. It doesn't always look great. So how do we fix it? We go here into a UV mapping. It looks very hard to do, but it's actually very easy. So what we have here is the map of our texture and the correct places of the surfaces of the faces on the element. So let's have a look where we did our little pixel. That should be a west face right over here. And what you want to do to fix this is sometimes either stretch it, make it bigger, or rotate. See, that fixed the problem. Just rotating it 90 degrees. That's what I'm missing in Blockbench, for example. But it's a matter of preference, as I said. Now, when we fix this, we want to go ahead and show some tools on painting. So here we have a pen. That's self-explanatory. You can draw whatever you want by 1 pixel. Then we have draw a line, so draw a straight line. Pretty much self-explanatory as well. Rectangle, one of my favorites. It's very easy to fill the wall space. Then we have round brush. Please don't use the brushes, because in Cubic it sometimes glitches out. For example, if I show you, if you reach from one element, from one face into another, it will glitch out like this. So it will kind of replicate the movement on some different faces that you don't want to. This can't really be fixed apart from, you know, making your model in Cubic and putting it in Blockbench, for example. Then we have square brush. That pretty much works the same. It glitches out as well, but this time it's a square brush. Flood zone with color. That's self-explanatory. Spray, no need to use really. Magic is very useful. So it changes the clicked color on another one. So if you want to remove this green and you want to do, for example, orange instead. So you just click on that and it will change the clicked color all around the whole model. So that's very useful. Now noise is my very favorite tool for saving time, because we need to be very efficient. That means we need to do plenty of models in a short amount of time without trying to paint every single pixel on the body of the model. So, and we also want to be optimized. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go around number 8, for example. You can alter it later on to see how it looks like. So we go for light blue and see what it did is it created a noise, a combination of different shades of the same color. This will save your time a lot on different models, whether it's item or a mob. So keep this one in mind. And now you don't want to paint the whole model by hand like this, so you can save your time and go to the UV mapping again. And what we do is we copy the west face and paste it on the east face. Now you can again flip it, rotate, whatever you need to do with it. But this works for both sides later on, so you need to click each one and paste it on both sides. That's how you save time. Now I'm already a few steps ahead of you again, so let's have a look how our model looks completed with the correct texture. Now we see we have a spotted hyena, and these are the flat elements, the planes that I showed you before on the ears. So what we did on the ears was we painted the ears, and then we made the rest of the element that you see over here transparent. You can do transparent or half transparent textures. So how do you do that? You go here into the palette and you will try and do either half, this is the half transparent one, or for us this time it's completely transparent. So what's it gonna do is it's gonna create transparent pixels where you need them, and you repeat the same thing on both sides to make it look round. You can't use it on cubes, you can use it only on planes to make it look natural. The same for the teeth. You see it's the wall element, but we painted only these teeth, and the rest is transparent. It's very easy. So you see it's nothing hard on the model. There are not too many details, but we don't need too many eventually for on models like these. It looks very, very nice. So let's go ahead, and of course don't forget to save your texture. And now if you forgot to add something that you wanted, it's not a problem. So for example, if I wanted to add another plane, I can do that, but you see the texture applies on it and it doesn't look great. So how do we fix that is go ahead to the UV mapping again and find an empty space on the actual texture. So we want to see the correct face, which is west, and now you see these textures, the transparent part and the gray part, are the ones without one. So we can go ahead and move it over here with your arrows. And now you got rid of the problem. You just need to paint it again. You need to paint more texture on this one. So you see, let's paint something on it, and then you will see in the actual UV mapping that we painted that one, and it does no problem. So we need to do it for the other side as well. But we don't need this one, so we will delete it. And let's go ahead and actually export your model with your texture to the game. So we go ahead to preview, and here we have first hand, third hand, floor, GUI, wall, and head setting. So you can save presets here, which is very useful. So if I wanted to do, for example, a similar model like this, like a dog or a wolf, I can save a preset and name it, for example, a canine. So I know every time I do a canine model, I can use this setting on each one of them, and it will make your life much easier. Now what we want to use for applying your model is the head setting. Always check export settings for whatever you need, all of them, if you want to export them and use them in game. So for the head setting, this is gonna be your anchor. This is where you need to bind your model. So this this dummy is practically, it's gonna have the same hitbox. So you will need to figure out where to put it, where you want players to hit it. So I want the players to hit it from the front, right? So I put it all the way to the back, so the front legs are inside the dummy. You see, it's not completely on the ground. That's for the reason of the animation later on. It won't be sinking into the ground when performing the animation. That's why we put it slightly above the ground. Now, when we have all this set up, and we have our texture saved, we have our model ready, so we go ahead and export it as a JSON file. Now, let's go ahead and save it. And now it's better to, you don't need to do it every single time. I think if you pre-save it, it might be just easier, but it's always good to double check your trace. So we go ahead and have a look using the Notepad++. And we want to check that this is in place. So this is where you will be putting your textures in your resource pack. Let's go ahead and have a look in our resource pack. So we go assets, Minecraft, textures, item. That's, you see, that's the item, slash hyena. That's the thing that you will be looking for. So you need to save it like this, and you need to make sure every single time, because otherwise you go in game and then you will realize that your model has purple and black texture. That means there is a bad trace and you need to fix this. You did a mistake here. So we go ahead and save this one, and now that means our model is ready and the trace is fine. So we need to bind it on some item for us to use in Mythic Mobs. So for versions underneath 1.15 is durability items, durability binding. I will show you how to do it. I will put the website into the description of the video for you to use. Is this one. And what do you need to do here? You need to make sure that it's unbreakable, that the unbreakable is checked. Then you need to choose your tool, what to bind it on. So I would choose a diamond tool because it's got the biggest number of models to produce. So you can bind 1,560 models just on this tool, just on the diamond hole right over here. So you want to do a generate code, then you download the JSON, which I already did, and you need to open it in the Notepad++. So let's have a look. Now you have the parent item handheld. You don't need to touch it. Now the texture, the placement of the texture, again it's item slash diamond hoe, and here we have all our predicates for the models. So what we need to do is we need to bind our first model. I already did this over here. So this is the first one, and what you need to do is you will need to later on create a helmet that's gonna be item type diamond hoe, and you will use this number as a durability for it. So it goes from 1 over here to 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on and so on. So for us it would be a helmet that is item type diamond hoe, it's unbreakable, and it has item durability number 1. So this is how you bind it on the lower versions for you to use in Mythic Mobs later on. Now how to do it for the higher than 1.15 versions. It's much easier eventually, and it doesn't even clash with any plugins. So we go ahead, and I will put the file, the basic file, into the description of the video, so you can download it and you can edit it however you like, and you can duplicate it and use it to your liking. So I bound the hyena on charcoal. Now what do we see here? We see the same again. Item generated. Here we see the texture. It won't affect how the item will look like in game, so you don't need to worry about that. Now we have some overrides again, but this time this is not damage, but this is custom model data. So this time when you are creating the item in Mythic Mobs, you will again create a helmet that will be item type charcoal this time, and the number that you will use will be custom model data, and it will be number 33, or this number right over here. So at these numbers are your own custom, so they can have maximum of 7 digits, and they can start with number 1, never 0, number 1. So you can actually put number 1 instead of here, or number 530. It depends on you. So this time for our hyena, it's is this number, and you can always check if it works in game later on by putting it in your hand with a command. But we're not gonna do that now. So this is how you bind it on the item. Now you need to save it again, and now we need to put our models and our bindings into your own texture pack. So let's go ahead and start with textures. So we're going into the item, and now we need to put our texture in there. So that's right over here. So let's go and find hyena. This is our texture. Let's put it right over there. Then we need to bind the actual models. So model, item. Now here we are putting all our models. So we go hyena, drag it over there. And last but not least, we need to put the binding item in there. Never forget to do it, because otherwise it won't show nicely. So we need to find the charcoal and drag it right over there. Now that's all for our model. So you have everything in your resource pack. Now we just need to put it in your game and see how it looks like. So ladies and gentlemen, this is all for this video. Now congratulations, you've created your first ever model, and we will see each other in the next video when I will show you how to animate it and how to actually put it in the game and make it work. See you in the next video.